Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 3 in this summer session of our research course. Trust you're doing well and you're staying healthy. We're doing our best here where we are at. It's been a pretty good summer so far. And hopefully in the process, despite all the heavy work that you have in an intensive like this, I've noticed a lot of you are getting the individual assignments done. Now, there's been a lot of little tiny assignments in this first part, and hopefully it's been priming you to what this week will be, which is the key week. You'll have noticed that there are no other assignments this week other than 2 biggies, the quantitative and qualitative project. Now you need to key in on actual research and your actual uniqueness to your project. I'm going to post a separate couple of videos. There'll be 3 of them that you're going to watch. One of them will be on the quantitative project. The other one is going to be on the qualitative project. And then I'll have another one on jot noting and how to actually record qualitative. So watch for those as they come out today and tomorrow. I didn't want to post them earlier because I didn't want a lot of you were starting to race ahead without having a context of the overall course. So there's a strategy to this. But know that this week is going to be compressed and pressure will be on. Why? Because these 2 assignments really are the core of your research project. Without the quant and qualitative piece, you don't have a research paper. And they must be done according to the proper research method. So the individual videos that I'll shoot on those 2 things, it'll come out sometime today. The first one will be the quantitative. You also will have watched Sean McDonald's quantitative as a kind of a background to what you're going to do with your project. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as a key week, this really is the core to the paper. Why so? This is really showing actual research you have done, not research from somebody else, and it's unique to you. Now, I understand this is a compressed course, and some people go, well, I can't do all this research. Can't I just go on the web? No, you cannot. This is what makes this unique and forces you into actually doing research itself. So you can't simply cut and paste here from the web. For instance, you can't just go and find demographics from the place I worked and cut and paste them into your project. You actually have to do some analysis for it. You can't just cut and paste something somebody else has written about your neighborhood from a .gov site, even though that it might be archival. We have to know something of what you said about your site. So it's unique to you, and its results are unique to you. So in both of these assignments, I'm going to be looking for the key components, which are a research inquiry. This will be your adapted research question. You now have come to the point where you have to nail it. For some projects, and it's very normal that the original research question, well, it didn't turn out that way. That's what's called emerging research, and it's not unusual at all. In fact, some of the best research are what we call ground-up research, or facts from the ground. What we mean the ground is the actual area you walk in, especially in participant observation. And grounded theory, where we're thinking about what's happening in a neighborhood that we can analyze, fits this as well. So it's called emergence. So for some of you, you will go back to your original research question, and then you will adapt it. One of the reasons I don't grade the research question that much is I do know some of you are going to completely adapt it, and that's perfectly fine. But for these 2 projects, you will need to have nailed it of what it is your actual inquiry is. Then you must show methodology in great detail. This isn't just saying I counted something or I observed something. You have to go into very dense detail about what actually you did. If you reflect back on the man on the mountain metaphor, one of the key ideas there was that there was 3 or 4 cases actually, the 2 that were done on the first mountain, the second mountain, and then one done on an island. What ties it together? It is the ability to replicate the same experiment in different cases. So what your methodology does is a very critical to a research paper, that you can show what actually you did so somebody could come and replicate your experiment. Don't make any assumptions that I know what you're doing or anybody else knows what you're doing, even though technically I do because I'm your professor. But somebody should be able to come in cold turkey and replicate your experiment in the time, the date, and place. So you need to think this through. A lot of student papers actually fall down quite a bit on methodology. They'll add a short paragraph when we actually need to know much more detail. The second part is you must show results. So this includes the data collection from your quant. It shows your field notes and jot notes and camera notes from your qual, but it shows that you actually have some data that is unique to you. I must see this in your paper. Then, finally, analysis. What does this data say about your research question? To what degree does it answer it or doesn't it? This is the key to both these assignments. Why is this really critical to do well? Because you essentially will cut and paste and drop both of them into your final paper. Your research question that you originally did, you may drop in as well. Your original neighborhood walk, you may drop in it as well. But a lot of those earlier assignments, you may adapt a little bit. These two essentially become a cut and paste. So you are working on your final paper right now. Think in those terms. It's not like in your back door, oh, I got my final paper waiting, I should get started on it. No, what you're doing is you're building your paper along the way, like you're playing Lego. You're little pieces of Lego all going into your thing. You're building a house. You're completing your yard work, by each piece makes it good. So what you're doing here is doing exactly that. You're building pieces for your final paper. So in the end, when you get to your final paper next week, it's essentially cut and polish part of it. Like not that difficult to do. But if you haven't done your basic core work, which is this, your research paper is really difficult to do well. So I'm going to say a lot more about these two in separate videos for you to watch, right? Your quant comes first and then your qual. All right, a few other just general comments. Tonight, there will be a collaborative session and look at the time when yours particularly starts, whichever class unit you're in. At that session, it's kind of a midpoint reflection on your projects. And so I think it's kind of an interesting thing to do is for you to talk about in a very short period of time about your camera notes. Your camera note project, your cinematic montage, was to take 50 photographs and then edit them however you wish into 5 PowerPoint slides. Some students use a lot of photos in their montage. Montage means many, correct? Many photos. Some of them say, well, this one photo tells the story of this kind of element, this one, this one, this one. So you were to separate out into various topics in your camera notes. So describe these topics. Now, it needs to be posted to Blackboard. So if anybody wants to go back and look at your actual project, then certainly I will look at them. That we know, that's what they were talking about. That's what the pictures look like. Now, I do not want big 10, 20-minute explanations of every detail of your project. Should be short and tight. You should be able to describe it very clearly and quickly, all right? So everybody will present that. I will also tonight do some reflection on the completion of the paper and the process to the finish. Plus, of course, leave it open for questions about the paper and so on. Don't be particularly concerned about all the little projects. Make sure they get down. But now we're coming to the main ones. But do not come into the session tonight having not watched the videos or observed that. I don't want to repeat all sorts of stuff that's there. The second thing, I've noticed that I'm getting questions quite regularly on the email which is fine. I don't mind it. But often the answers are already there in either videos or instructions that have been given. So before you start asking by email, what am I supposed to do? Check the instructions. All right? Sometimes I will just say, look at the instructions. It's already there. Why? Because that's your responsibility to do. I'm not a personal tutor that just walks you through each detail. With the 50 students I have, if everybody were to do that, we would never finish this course. And I've been pretty particular about making sure each detail is there. So you need to watch and you need to read to make sure you've followed the instructions. Also, it's kind of been lost, but we thank one of your colleagues who has mentioned it to me. Well, why don't you have a question and answer on Blackboard? Well, in fact, it's always been there, but I had it down at the bottom of the discussion board. I've moved it up to the top of the discussion board. And what this is if you have questions, I'm getting repeat questions, post your question there, and I'll look at it and respond to it there for others who might have the same kind of question, if you think a question is general enough for everybody else. All right? Anyways, we'll see you at the collaborative session tonight. Keep working. You're getting there.